Vikings, let's win the game.
Vikings training camp is about to explode with pressure. Blake Cashman is dealing with a lingering injury, opening the door for one player to revive his career in Minnesota. Meanwhile, Kevin O'Connell has received a troubling warning about his future, and Nolan Teasley has an opportunity to add an experienced pass rusher who is still available. Plus, the latest developments surrounding training camp will surprise you. Get ready for what's coming next. Ivan Pace Jr. is entering Vikings training camp with no room left for another disappointing season, and the latest news surrounding Blake Cashman could place even more responsibility on his shoulders. Darren Wolfson of KSTP reported that Cashman is still dealing with a finger issue that has lingered since last year. Cashman is expected to be a full participant when training camp begins, but his injury history makes this something Minnesota cannot simply ignore. The veteran has never played a complete season in 7 years and missed 4 games in 2025 because of a hamstring injury. If that finger creates any limitation or Cashman suffers another setback, Pace could suddenly be asked to handle a much larger defensive role. The problem is that Pace must first prove he can still be trusted with one. After arriving as an undrafted rookie in 2023, Pace quickly became one of Minnesota's most exciting defensive discoveries. Across his first 2 seasons, he recorded 99 solo tackles, 5.5 sacks, 3 passes defended, 2 interceptions, and 2 fumble recoveries. He looked aggressive, instinctive, and perfectly suited for Brian Flores' attacking defense. But that momentum disappeared in 2025. Although Pace appeared in all 17 games, he started only 6 and played just 323 defensive snaps, compared with 333 on special teams. He finished with 34 solo tackles and 1 sack while receiving a career-worst 45.1 overall grade from Pro Football Focus. His run defense grade fell to 56.2, and quarterbacks targeting him in coverage completed 73.7% of their passes while producing a 121.8 passer rating. Those numbers explain why Pace's position now feels vulnerable. Minnesota tendered him in March, giving him a $3.52 million cap hit, but the Vikings can remove that entire amount by cutting or trading him. In other words, there is no financial barrier protecting his place on the roster. Pace is still only 25 and will not turn 26 until December, so a return to his 2023 and 2024 form remains possible. A contract year could provide exactly the urgency he needs, but with Cashman's durability uncertain, Minnesota cannot afford unreliable linebacker depth. Pace must demonstrate from the opening practice that last season was a temporary regression. If he cannot rediscover his physicality, awareness, and confidence, this training camp may become the end of his Vikings story. The pressure surrounding this season does not stop with the players because Kevin O'Connell could be approaching the most important year of his Vikings tenure. ESPN reporter Kevin Seifert raised an uncomfortable possibility. If Minnesota fails to win another playoff game in 2026, the organization will face a difficult decision regarding its head coach. Seifert did not suggest that another postseason disappointment would automatically end O'Connell's tenure, but he explained how unusual it would be for the Vikings to keep him for a 6th season without a playoff victory. O'Connell has accomplished plenty during his first 4 years. He won NFL Coach of the Year in 2024 and collected 43 regular season victories, tied for the 5th most in the league over that period. Those achievements matter, especially when we consider the instability he has faced at quarterback. But the NFL ultimately judges coaches by what happens in January, and O'Connell remains winless in 2 playoff appearances. If Minnesota goes 5 consecutive seasons without winning in the postseason and still brings him back, O'Connell would join Jay Gruden, Marvin Lewis, and Gary Kubiak as the only coaches this century to receive a 6th year under those circumstances. That is not a group any coach wants to join. The Vikings have already separated O'Connell's future from that of former general manager Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, firing the GM while retaining the head coach. Teams often connect those positions and replace both together, so ownership's decision demonstrated real confidence in O'Connell. But that confidence will not last forever without postseason results. Making matters more complicated, the quarterback competition may determine whether O'Connell can finally change that narrative. Kyler Murray is considered the favorite, but he is attempting to learn a complicated offense while splitting practice opportunities with J.J. McCarthy. Murray has acknowledged that the adjustment has been challenging, and Ian Rappaport has reported that the competition could continue until the beginning of the regular season. O'Connell must identify the right quarterback while also preparing the offense to win immediately. Choose too early, and he could commit to the wrong player. Wait too long, and neither quarterback may receive enough first-team work to be fully prepared. Injuries and instability have repeatedly complicated O'Connell's tenure, but eventually, explanations stop carrying the same weight. In 2026, regular season success alone may no longer be enough. The Vikings need to reach the postseason, and this time, O'Connell may need to prove he can win when the pressure is at its highest. If the Vikings want to help O'Connell and this defense survive that pressure, there is still time for General Manager Nolan Teasley to make one important move before the roster is finalized. Minnesota traded Jonathan Greenard to the Philadelphia Eagles in April, leaving Andrew Van Ginkel and Dallas Turner at the top of a pass-rushing group that could use another proven weapon. That is why Jadeveon Clowney deserves serious consideration. The former number 1 overall selection has played 153 games with 133 starts across 7 teams during his 12-year career. He has accumulated 66.5 sacks, 36 passes defended, 16 forced fumbles, 11 recoveries, 3 Pro Bowl selections, and a second-team All-Pro honor. Clowney has moved around the league, but that experience could actually help him adjust to Brian Flores' complex and constantly changing defensive system. More importantly, he proved last season that he can still affect a game without being treated like a full-time starter. Clowney started only 6 of his 13 appearances for Dallas, his fewest starts since his rookie season, yet produced 8.5 sacks, 24 solo tackles, 4 passes defended, and 1 fumble recovery. According to Pro Football Focus, he generated 40 pressures and earned an 80.6 pass rush grade, ranking 15th among 115 qualified edge defenders. For a player who would likely rotate behind Van Ginkel and Turner, that production could dramatically strengthen Minnesota's depth. Yes, Clowney is 33, and his injury history will create hesitation. But the recent numbers are more encouraging than the reputation. He has appeared in 44 of 51 possible games over the past 3 seasons. 3 of the 4 games he missed in 2025 came before he made his Cowboys debut in Week 4. He later missed 1 game with a hamstring injury and returned the following week. SpotRack projects his market value at approximately $5.7 million. That is not a minor investment for an older defender, but Minnesota reportedly has more than $13.7 million available, making a 1-year contract manageable. The Vikings would not be asking Clowney to replace Greenard alone. They would be asking him to join a rotation, pressure quarterbacks, and give Flores another versatile veteran to move around his front. There is no guarantee his Dallas production will carry over, but that is the nature of every late off-season signing. Minnesota is attempting to build a team capable of winning in January, and proven pass rushers rarely remain available this close to camp. If Teasley believes the Vikings are truly ready to compete, Clowney is the type of calculated risk worth taking before another team makes the call. The biggest decision of camp, however, remains at quarterback, where J.J. McCarthy may be fighting for much more than the opportunity to start Week 1. According to Kevin Seifert's research, no comparable top 10 quarterback in the salary cap era has lost his job after his team acquired another starter, then returned and successfully established himself as that franchise's long-term answer. Seifert acknowledged that this conclusion came from his own search for similar cases, but the message is still alarming. If Kyler Murray wins this competition, McCarthy's path back may be far more difficult than simply waiting for another opportunity. McCarthy started 10 games in 2025 and went 6-4, but his inconsistent individual performance pushed Minnesota to sign Murray to a 1-year contract. Both quarterbacks split first and second team work during mandatory minicamp, yet they entered training camp facing very different standards. Murray has 7 years of NFL experience, the arm talent to operate O'Connell's offense, and the mobility to rescue broken plays. His challenge is learning a complex progression-based system without allowing that complexity to disrupt his natural ability. As Seifert put it, Murray's primary responsibility is to avoid making a mess of the competition. McCarthy must do much more. He needs to show significant improvement in decisiveness, accuracy, and his recognition of Brian Flores' pressure packages. His experience inside O'Connell's system should give him an important advantage, but that advantage means nothing if the football continues to come out late or inaccurately. Seifert specifically warned that if McCarthy is still spraying passes around the field, Minnesota could quickly reach its conclusion because accuracy was already a concern last summer and during the season. Adequate play may not be enough for McCarthy. He may need to create obvious separation and convince O'Connell that his long-term upside is more valuable than Murray's experience. If Murray is named the starter, the offense will begin building timing and identity around him. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and the offensive line will receive more repetitions with Murray, while O'Connell shapes his weekly plans around Murray's strengths. That organizational momentum is extremely difficult to reverse. Injuries or poor performance could still place McCarthy on the field, especially after Minnesota needed McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and Max Brosmer to start games last season. But getting another chance is not the same as regaining the franchise's complete confidence. Flores' defense may ultimately help decide everything by forcing both quarterbacks to identify disguised coverages, solve protection problems, and deliver the ball under pressure. McCarthy can still win this job, but if Murray takes control of it, McCarthy would be attempting a comeback that, according to Seifert's research, no comparable modern quarterback has completed. This is not merely a preseason competition. McCarthy could be fighting for his entire future in Minnesota. Training camp will test every level of this organization. Ivan Pace must prove he belongs. Nolan Teasley must decide whether Clowney is worth the investment. Kevin O'Connell needs to produce postseason results. And J.J. McCarthy is facing a potentially career-defining battle. Tell me which storyline concerns you most. Subscribe for daily Vikings news. And as always, stay tuned. Skol Vikings, let's go!